Our viewer, Jesse Purefoy, submitted this question. If I'm in America and I know I have British ancestors, how do I begin researching those ancestors? Well, today's your lucky day, Jesse. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, and I found the expert, or at least I think you're the expert, on British research. This is Jen Baldwin with Findmypast, and just wait, she's going to blow us away.
It's so great to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me. So the question is, how do you get started on British research when you are in the United States? And yeah, that can be really complicated, but it can also be really straightforward. So the best way to set yourself up for success is first create a research plan.
Okay.
I don't care if it's 15 pages long.
Okay, you're going to have to explain what a research plan is. Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut her off, but I heard research plan and I wanted to head for the hills.
Yeah, they're not scary, I promise. Okay, so you're depending on who you are, right, and your personality, your research plan could be 15 pages, it could be 15 words. I don't care if it's written on a Post-it note, but you want to outline what are your questions you're trying to answer, how are you going to answer those questions, what resources are you going to look at to find those answers, right? How are you actually going to accomplish what you're trying to do? So if you jump into this idea of crossing the pond from America to the British Isles without organizing yourself first, you will be lost in no time. It will be very overwhelming. So sit down and think about what you're trying to accomplish. That's step number one.
Okay, so can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure.
And maybe it's going to be step number 2, but we have videos about developing a good research plan, but how do you know what records are next? Because you said outline what you want to research,
Yep.
But that's the gray area,
what do you do?
right? Are you going to cover that?
I'll cover that.
Awesome.
So let's actually just make that step 2, right?
Okay.
The first thing you need to do after you know what question you're trying to answer is, how do I do that? Where do I find the answers? I don't know. Never done this before. So there's a couple things you need to understand about going across the seas, right? The first thing is comprehensive research in the United States. So whoever that immigrant ancestor is, you need to know everything about their life that you can possibly uncover, right? So in my case, one of my British ancestors was supposedly a shoemaker. Right? Supposedly. The family story, the oral history that's passed down, tells me that he was a shoemaker. Tells me that his father was a silversmith. So I'm trying to answer the question, how did a son go from son of a silversmith, which is a relatively higher middle class type of industry, to shoemaker, which is not, right? He stepped down a little bit. So when I look at that, I think, okay, well, so theoretically, according to the family story, again, he got a job with another shoemaker somewhere in New York. Okay, that's a good place to start. How do I find shoemaker records? I don't know. I got to figure that out. I got to research what's available to me in New York, right? How do I find out where shoemakers might have been? Well, maybe there's a city directory I can look at. Maybe there's a map I can look at. I need to outline all of those sources.
She said City Directory. I love City Directories.
City Directories are fab.
I have 3 videos so far on City Directories in the channel, so that's why my eyebrows went up.
Watch those videos. Yeah. So one of the best tools that I actually refer to actually create this list of records and this possibility, right? We need to be looking at the card catalogs of the sites we use. And so for Findmypast, it's called the A to Z of record sets. My colleagues in the UK would say A to Z, but I am American, so I say A to Z, right? And what it is essentially a card catalog, right? It's a listing of every collection that we have on the site. So I can go into that website and I can filter to just England or just Scotland or just Ireland or just the United States or just Canada. And then I can even go to county level if I want to. So if you have any indication of what county you're interested in researching, then it will show you all of the records that we have that are available for that location. Okay. Which is fantastic because it eliminates all the other stuff. Right? So I know if I select on a county and a record set disappears, there's no records from that county in that collection. Okay. So from there, I create my research tool, my research plan, whatever you want to call it, and I identify the ones that I think are most likely and the ones that I know I must hit because it's a national collection or it's a census or it's a military set. And then I find those little obscure titles that you just kind of have to look at because you got to know what they are. Right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so we know research plan,
and
we know kind of research plan, helping it out for a research list that goes on the research plan, where to look.
Yep.
What's next?
Right. So comprehensive research in North America, it is absolutely crucial. There's no such thing in this process as too much information. I mean, there's not. There just isn't. Because every little piece of information that you have on your ancestor and his family will potentially lead you to the next step. Okay. Right? So again, I'll go back to my British ancestors as an example because it's what I'm working on right now. So his name is John Lawrence. He came over from Birmingham, England, we think, probably around the 1830s. He gets married in New York and he has a bunch of kids. Okay, so I am heavily researching John and his wife, and I'm coming up empty and empty and empty in New York and England, everywhere. I'm not finding anything. And I finally go, oh, right, I don't know enough about his kids. So that collateral research, his children, his siblings, his aunts and uncles, his parents, anybody in the family that you can identify deserve their time in your research. So eventually I find that one of his children, I knew this already, but one of his kids actually ends up being a millionaire.
That means newspaper articles.
That means newspaper articles. That means a huge paper trail, right? There are lots of records on this particular son. He's not the person who immigrated, and he's not even the person that I care the most about. But because there's so much information on him, his bio in one of those county publication books was able to give me more information on his parents. It talked about his origins. It talked about where his family was from. It talked about where he was born and where he grew up and what kind of life they had. It talked about how they were Methodists and his parents were incredibly religious, and so they used to recite Bible quotes and told the story about how he and his parents used to act out Shakespearean plays. So this bio of this millionaire who dies in the 1900s is one of my best sources of information on my immigrant ancestor.
And it goes back to that genealogy principle. Don't just try to go straight back. Sometimes you have to go sideways in order to go back.
That's right.
I love it.
Absolutely. Yep. Cluster research is really important. Yep. So at the same time, we have this wonderful invention called the internet. Right?
I don't think I've heard of it.
No? So the great thing about genealogy is that it's fun, right? So even though we're trying to cross the pond and we're trying to do it in a way that we can say with some kind of confidence, yes, this is my ancestor and I know where I come from, it's a lot of fun to dig into records that you're not familiar with, right? It's fun to go explore British and Irish records that you've never seen before. Dog license registers are cool. And they're available.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding. So, all right, side cut to the dog license register, right? In Ireland, they tax everything, and that includes permits for animals. So they created a dog license register. It lists the ancestor's name, where he was, when he was there. Sometimes you get the name of the dog. You get the sex and the breed of the dog, the color. But it puts your ancestor in a time and place. And when you're talking about Ireland with massive record destruction, that's really important, right? So dog license registers are available on Findmypast.
That's so sad that we don't have those in America.
Yeah, it is actually, but we do have cattle brands.
That's true. I'm from Texas. Unfortunately, I haven't used them because my ancestors aren't from Texas. It's just me. I moved there.
So I have another little story. I'm going off topic again, but it's cool. So I've done a lot of research in mining towns in Colorado, and a lot of them had cattle and other livestock as well. And there were some records that I was able to find in a low county courthouse in Colorado that individuals did not know how to sign their name. So they used their cattle brand as their signature. They drew it in the document, and I was able to trace this guy through his property records by his cattle brand versus his signature. It was awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay. So
back to England.
Yeah, back to England. But you know what? That's why I like her. She just overflows with knowledge. Okay, so back to England. So what happens after we do a reasonably exhaustive search in America? We hopefully have found a county.
Yep.
In not Ireland, England. What do we do next?
Yep. So it's location. So you need to at least have a general idea of it's northern England or it's southern England or it's Scotland or it's Wales. Don't forget that it's a big, massive piece of territory, right, underneath British authority, under the Crown. So step one is to learn about your area.
Okay.
There are parish registers, there are county boundaries, there are hundreds, there are civil registration districts. All of these vary. They're not necessarily lined up. The maps don't overlap each other nicely. So you may think you're looking in one county, but the parish overlaps the county line. You need to search over there too.
Okay.
Right? So get all the maps you can find. Maps. Because that will help you understand how all of these divisions work. That's really the first clue, is really understanding the system of British records. It only takes a couple of Google searches and you'll catch up real quick.
You're really good. So you didn't say go look for the name in the county. You said
No.
go look at the history, look at the geography.
Yep.
Because then you can go to the record.
That's right. Yep. So know your territory, right? If you're trying, it's the same in the United States, right? If you're looking for John Smith, you don't just search the 1900 census anywhere in the country for John Smith. That's an impossible mountain to climb, right? You got to know something about John and where to look. So once you have a location and you kind of understand the scenario that your ancestor might have lived in, one of the really first key things is either parish records or civil registration. Civil registration in England starts in 1836. Might be 1834, but pretty sure it's 1836. It's been a long day. So understand that at that date, civil registration starts, and you're going to find more civil records. Before that, the parish is where everything is recorded. Everything is recorded in the church. Okay. So for the majority of people, that of course implies Church of England, but don't forget Roman Catholic records and other denominations that don't fit the norm, right? Okay. So if you're talking about colonial periods, you need to explore all of the faiths, because there were a lot of laws and they may or may not have been allowed to record a baptism or a marriage in a traditional parish record. It might have been something that they hid in some other book. Okay. Right? So parish records and civil records. Once you get there and you get kind of the basics of the family and the structure of the tree, then you can get into military records and school district records and all sorts of other fun things.
Do they have city directories?
They do have city directories.
And how early do they begin?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know I've played around with one from the late 1700s, The best example I have in my own research is from 1820.
That's pretty early.
It's pretty early, yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the history of England is much longer than the history of the United States, right? So the records get really cool really fast. It gets really fascinating because you start to think about and put it into perspective of American history, and you go, I'm looking at a record from 1780. Meanwhile, my American ancestors are in the depths of the Revolutionary War, right? But they're just living normal life and everything's fine in England. So it's exciting research, and because and thanks to the internet and sites like Findmypast, we can do these things in tandem. Just understand that if you dive into your English or Irish research too soon without enough information, you might get frustrated. So the key really is don't give up. Keep going on the American research or North American research, wherever you are. Don't stop doing that, but give yourself the chance to explore some of these new record opportunities while at the same time, so make sure you're still enjoying yourself.
Fantastic. Now, Jesse and the rest of you, if that doesn't answer your question and you want more, put them in the comments below. Or, Jen, tell people how they can get a hold of you or someone who can give help at Findmypast.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach us on all the social media channels, Facebook and Twitter and all the usual places. We actually, I say this, of course, with bias, but we have one of the best customer support teams in the industry. Our customer support folks are awesome. So send them an email or do a live chat on the Findmypast website, or call them. They're located in Dundee, Scotland, which means that you get to talk to somebody with a really cool Scottish accent, which is always a good time. They're generally available 5 days a week through about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
10 a.m. or p.m.?
10 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern Standard Time, and then they go home and we let them sleep for a couple hours, and they come back and do the UK time frame, right? It's 7 hours difference for me. So keep in mind that the hours don't necessarily go as late as some of the other U.S.-based companies, but U.S.-based companies don't have Scottish accents.
Thank you so much. Once again, if you have any questions, check out the comment section and let's have a conversation. And then check out the descriptions for the link to Findmypast.